There was a time when childhood didn't need instructions, only a patch of sun, a piece of chalk and the courage to scrape a knee. There was a time when a courtyard could become an ocean, a street, a stadium, and a stick the most powerful wand in the world. Before we open that gate together, subscribe to the Italy we remember. Every week we bring back the sounds, faces, and small miracles that built who we are. And if you have an old photo, a school report card, or a memory that still smells like dust and summer, write to stories@italywemember.com. Your story could become part of our next film. We're about to remember 25 forgotten childhood moments that built Italian dreams, little rituals that taught us patience, courage, and how to belong. We will walk the streets where games were chalked at noon and erased by rain at dusk. We will taste merende that cost almost nothing and somehow paid for everything. We will listen for bells, school bells, bicycle bells, church bells, that stitched our days together like careful thread. We all knew the language of chalk, hopscotch, la campana, drawn quick on cobblestones, squares won and lost with a pebble, 1 foot testing balance like a promise. We learned to keep our word there. No stepping on lines, no pretending a miss was a hit. Then came marbles, biglie, our pockets clacking like tiny planets. Knees on stone, dust in our hands, the world narrowed to a perfect circle where luck and aim danced like brothers who fought and reconciled 10 times a day. There was the street tournament with a ball that had already lived 3 lives, patched, scuffed, loved beyond reason. 2 jackets were goalposts. The rule book fit in a sentence. The last shot counts unless Nonna calls you to dinner. We learned politics there, and mercy, and how to argue without becoming enemies. We learned to play until the light turned honey and voices from windows meant, basta, tomorrow. Merende was a ceremony disguised as a snack. Pane zucchero, pane cioccolato, pane olio, each slice a map back to the kitchen where hands moved with the speed of love. We can still feel the sugar melting, the chocolate softening, the oil shining like a good secret. We ate them on steps, on stoops, on the road, careful not to drop the precious crumbs we were sure would grow into new loaves if we believed hard enough. School smelled like glue and clean notebooks. We wore grembiuli that made us look like a choir. The knots at our throats were never perfect, and that was fine. The first page of the new quaderno, the one we tried to write on as if language were glass. The maestra's handwriting on the blackboard, white and decisive as winter, teaching us that letters had shapes and lives of their own. In that room we learned that silence could be generous, and that raising a hand was a kind of bravery. We owned very little and shared almost everything. Bicycles passed through siblings like heirlooms, a bell, a seat too high, a chain that snapped only on the hill where you needed it most. We believed in physics as much as in angels. When the tube punctured, there was always someone who knew how to mend it with a patch and a blessing. We learned to balance long before grown-ups asked us to. Summers had their own time zone. The courtyard turned into a theatre, with sheets on clotheslines becoming curtains. We performed plays badly and applauded well. Biglie raced in sandy tracks at the beach, our fingers flicking as if we could persuade the future with a single tap. We used old truck inner tubes as rafts, the sea welcoming even our mistakes with a salty laugh, our pockets filled with shells, stones, and promises we intended to keep. Sundays were holy in ways the calendar couldn't fully name. Shoes that clicked on church stone, the hush that made us taller, the incense that turned breath into fog. Afterward, the walk, la vasca, up and down the same street with the entire town, pretending to be surprised by people we saw every day. A coin for gelato, 2 flavors negotiated like peace treaties. If you dropped a scoop, someone always gave you a lick of theirs because sorrow was not allowed to be permanent. We found treasure where adults saw chores. The market's chaos, fish on ice, tomatoes like lanterns, voices weaving a net you couldn't fall through. A fruit seller slipped us a bruised peach that tasted like a sunrise. At home we helped shell peas on the terrace, the pods snapping open like green pages. We learned the grammar of patience, 1 bowl for the peas, 1 bowl for tomorrow. Rain was not a cancellation, it was a remix. We chased each other with umbrellas that needed more help than they gave. We floated paper boats down flooded gutters and cheered as if entire nations depended on them. When lightning cracked the sky, we counted seconds between light and sound and made up a science that made perfect sense to children and to no one else. We learned that fear could be measured, and that it often dissolved when you held somebody's hand. We believed in mail, postcards from the seaside pinned to the kitchen wall, stamps like tiny paintings, letters to cousins read aloud after dinner. The words were not only ink, they were bridges. We drew on the backs of used envelopes because paper deserved two lives. We learned that news moved at the speed of care and somehow always arrived on time. There were moments small enough to fit in a pocket and large enough to fill a lifetime. The day new shoes made us princes for an afternoon. The day the neighborhood dog accepted us as a person of interest. The day a teacher said bravo as if discovering a small planet. There was the night we stayed up late and the room felt taller because darkness makes ceilings honest. There was the morning we realized we could be brave without telling anyone. We carried the soundscape of our towns in our bones, the clang of the tram, the hush of the trolley bus, the whistle of the night train reminding us that elsewhere existed and was not an enemy. The market bell, the noon siren, the radio that told us stories while we ate pasta too hot and pretended it didn't hurt. Church bells at 6 meant both evening and childhood forever. Inside houses, time had corners. The kitchen table, scuffed and faithful, where we did homework while someone peeled apples with a knife that had peeled 1,000 apples before. The drawer of forbidden objects, scissors too sharp, lighter hidden under dishcloths, mysterious string that we knew was important, the wall with pictures in black and white, faces that looked like us but braver, watching gently as if to say, "You'll figure it out." We learned games that made rules into invitations, elastic bands around ankles, la campana in another form, feet hopping in choreography that made laughter into oxygen, figurine panini swapped with solemnity, album pages like atlases of longing, a lucky sticker placed and then smoothed with the palm as if blessing a future match. A pack of cards for Scopa taught us to count without numbers, to bluff without lying, to lose without surrendering our joy. There were friendships that began in a single afternoon and lasted long enough to change addresses twice. We could find each other by sound, a name shouted into a courtyard and answered 3 floors up by a mother who knew exactly which child, which tone, which truth. When a ball bounced into a stranger's shop, it always came back. When a knee bled, salt water and a whisper cured it. We learned that a neighborhood is a country that doesn't need borders. Not all memories behaved. There were goodbyes, as fathers left for work before dawn, as grandparents moved into rooms where silence kept their company. There were arguments that taught us words could hurt, and reconciliations that taught us they could also heal. A broken toy, a broken promise, a broken plate. We learned repair. We learned mi dispiace and meant it. The climax of childhood is not a single day. It is the moment you understand you will keep this map forever. The alley that smelled of pastries at 5. The bench where alliances were forged. The stretch of road where a bicycle first felt like a name you chose for yourself. It is the moment you realize all these small things were teaching you the big one. How to live with other people, joyfully, imperfectly, for real. We carry these moments into the present like candles we guard with our bodies when the wind grows rude. Screens are bright, yes, and roads faster, and meals packaged. But somewhere a courtyard waits, chalk, stubborn under rain. Somewhere a child with a marble decides the rules and discovers ethics. Somewhere a teacher writes on a board and turns silence into a gift again. We can return, not by pretending time stopped, but by choosing to do one ordinary thing with extraordinary attention. So let's bring one of these moments back this week. Draw a hopscotch for a child you love, or for yourself. Write a postcard to someone who doesn't expect it. Buy a ball that looks wrong in a store and right in a street. Make pane zucchero and eat it on the steps even if your neighbors raise an eyebrow. Tell a story that doesn't need to be true to be beautiful. And when the bell rings, whichever bell your life still has, answer with kindness. If one of these memories found you where you are, tell us in the comments. What did your afternoons taste like, and who taught you to believe in them? Or write to stories@thataliwemember.com with a photo from your schoolyard, a drawing from your first notebook, a face from a time when your name was smaller and your dreams were somehow bigger. We'll feature the best in a future episode, so the game never ends. Subscribe to the Italy we remember. Next time we might step into the little shops that smelled like pencil shavings and miracles, or follow the summer train that carried entire villages to the sea. For now, listen, a bicycle bell, a shout of "Tocca a me," a marble striking another marble just right. Childhood isn't gone. It's waiting in the courtyard, chalk in hand, ready to begin again.